We live?
Yep, we are live. Let me just get open the video and make sure the output looks good. Okay, yep, we're good to go.
Okay. Hi, everyone. This is another one of the Foam community calls. We're going to walk through proof of use, the proof of use period, and we're going to announce a new campaign that is meant to be a first test of extrinsic incentives on the Foam app. But first, we have a bunch of Foam from the Foam team on the call. So everyone, please introduce yourselves.
Hi everyone, as you know, I'm Ryan, co-founder, CEO of Foam. Thanks everyone for joining. We've now made it past the initial use period, and users who have completed proof of use are now able to transfer their tokens. So just want to thank everyone for their support along the way, and this is a major milestone in the project, and we're really excited for what's going to be happening in the months to come.
Hey everyone, my name is Brian. You probably have not seen me before because I'm a new team member as of this last month, working on marketing. Yeah, happy to be here.
Hey, I'm Ilya. I'm the protocol engineer at Foam, so some smart contract stuff, some of the over-the-air protocol stuff, a bit of everything. Nice to meet you guys. Happy to be part of the call.
Hi everyone, I'm Katya. Been on a previous call. I'm a creative officer at Foam for the new ones.
And I'm Arthur. I'm head of growth at Foam, and yeah, let's jump into it. I've prepared a presentation which basically recaps the proof of use period. 1 sec, I'll share my screen. Here, can everyone see this? Can you confirm? Confirmed?
Yes.
Okay, great. So basically, I'm going to walk through the token sale distribution one more time so everyone has that in mind. And then we're going to walk through the results of the proof of use period, the initial use period, I mean. So when we did the token sale, we had 1,002 token purchasers, which to our amazement, given that this is a spatial project, was pretty much distributed across the world, as this map shows. Our purchase levels were also healthy in our perspective. You can see there's not too much concentration here in any side. And as I said, the distribution was distributed among globally, basically. Of course, there are always certain centralizations, but I think we're very happy with the results of a token sale. And I think you'll see that this also manifests in how the initial use period has kind of manifested. So to talk about the initial use period, right now, already 8.2% of the total circulating supply is staked in both signaling and points of interest. 240 of our existing 1,002 users have fulfilled the proof of use requirements, which has unlocked around 50 of the 300 million distributed originally in the token sale. So I'll break down this into two categories. First, the points of interest. What we've seen is that the tags are pretty distributed. We have many in the attraction category, also art, food, retail. Yeah, it's pretty well distributed. It's been very nice to see how the community has been involved in the tag generation and has been active on our community forum for helping us generate new tags. For POI creation, we've seen very much in line with the original token event, a global distribution centralized around Europe, Asia, and the US. with San Francisco, New York being the top 2 cities in the other order, Amsterdam being city 3. To our amazement, when we ran the clustering of the POIs, we found that a small town in Portugal was number 4. Check that out. Seoul is number 5, Moscow, London, Tokyo, Melbourne, and Paris number 10. This is another view of the distribution between countries, which is in total points, not in cities here, as in previous. These graphics, most of these graphics are in the proof of use blog post. Here's one for United States. You see that California, although New York is number 1, California is dominant in total POIs. Also, we have some nice analytics provided by Blocklytics. Caleb, many of you know from our community channels. They've provided us with both the newsletter or the mail updates for the POIs, which is extremely beneficial for the community, but also something like this, which is an overview of the point of interest outcomes. As you can see, this was generated today, that of the total points, only 208 have been challenged. And interestingly, 175 of those were deemed to be faulty or invalid by the community, which means that we think that this proves that most or almost all points that are challenged are actually faulty, which means that the TCR works as a concept for guaranteeing a healthy database of POI data, or at least to this stage. One other interesting graph provided by Blocklytics is that although the proof of use stipulates that 10 POIs is the needed limit, a big percentage of our contributors actually add much more, which, although we've had conversations around incentive models on the foam map, it seems that the incentive models currently deployed are sufficient for at least some of our community members. We're not saying that we should increase that, but that's already a really healthy sign. So yeah, that was some things from the point of interest category. And now I'll quickly go through signaling, a function that was launched not long ago. We're also going to release some more data from signaling in the coming year, so stay tuned for that. But a quick walkthrough of signaling. Since launch, we already have a lot of in the signaling contract. If you see here, in comparison, it's a high multiple. We've seen points pop up over New York, Tokyo, San Francisco, and more. We're going to run some more analytics on that. And as I said, there'll be a blog post similar to the proof of use analytics blog post that will show some more stats on this. What is interesting, we have 609 signals so far deployed, which compared to the approximately 6,000 points of interest is still not that much, but they're of course much more capital concentrated, let's say like that. So yeah, next we go to Ilya.
Hey everybody. So this is going to be a sort of technical intro to signaling without getting too technical. I'm going to explain the foundational components of it and then how they all come together to get the signaling that you may have already seen on the map. So signals exist as a means to bootstrap the distributions of zones once dynamic proof of location comes around. And the way it does it is it allows token holders to place signals on the map of where they want a zone to pop up. So there are a few considerations we had to make. One is that rewards for zones will be determined after dynamic launches. So it's important to keep the mechanism as open-ended as possible, which means things like the age of the signal might come into play, where the longer that the signal has existed on the map, you might lead to situations where the signal itself has more potential rewards and thus theoretically worth more than the actual tokens within it. Of course, there's the actual place that the signal is placed to consider. And then signals also have a size to represent how much coverage should be in it, like how wide the area by the signal should be covered. So after brainstorming a bit on clean ways to do this, we kind of realized, well, NFTs are just, you know, any arbitrary data that can be owned by somebody. So we thought it was natural that something like a signal could be represented as an NFT. And what we first did is we made something called a stake token, which just takes some amount of foam tokens, or technically any token, but in our case, the foam token, and just wraps them up in an NFT. So if you know how Bitcoin's transaction model works, it's basically UTXOs. If you guys want like a explainer or blog post on something like that, let us know in the comments and I might write something. So another cool thing about NFTs is that there's a whole ecosystem around them. There's NFT wallets, there's services like OpenSea that allow people to you know, exchange NFTs and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a pretty convenient abstraction for us. So now that we have a way to wrap up some amount of foam tokens, we needed a way to associate them with the location. So we look back at some of the earlier stuff we made, such as namely the CSC, or cryptospatial coordinate, which, if you might recall from the white paper, maps an Ethereum address to a location in real world space. Now, the thing with NFTs is because they're just pieces of data in a smart contract, you can't just use an address. So we just extended it a little bit to make what's called the CST, or cryptospatial token, which is an NFT contract address, the actual ID of the token in the NFT contract, and then, you know, geohash, i.e. where it is in the world. Now remember that signals also have a radius associated with them, so you can take that extension and just add a little radius parameter to it. And that's what the CST is. So now we need a way to say, okay, what token is this CST associated with? Because much like a CSC, a CST is privacy preserving. So we made the CST registry. What's really neat about this is it basically allows you to put any NFT on the map. So, you know, in the future, we might be able to say, hey, I have a crypto kitty and it lives in the shed in my backyard, or something like that. Or I can make a geocaching game where, you know, I put some NFT that lives in a point in space and you have to go walk somewhere to get it. So it opens up a lot of flexibility for us for other things other than signaling, which is pretty cool. So what do you do? What do you do now? Okay, so you have a way to put NFTs on the map. You have an NFT that represents a stake. You just smash them together in a giant particle accelerator somewhere in the middle of Switzerland. You get the signal token, which enables signaling, as you may have seen it on the map already. That's all for me. Arthur, if you want to take over.
Yes, can you hear me? Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. Which is also great, let's say, transfer to what I'm going to talk about in terms of like games that can be done with this standard. So there has been a lot of conversation around extrinsic incentives on our community forum. So we've been thinking, and we're happy to announce a small campaign over Christmas, which is the first test for extrinsic incentive models for contributions, POI contributions on the foam map. I'm going to quickly go into screen mode again and share some visuals from that. One sec. Can you see my screen? Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So for Christmas, we're doing the first test with NFTs as incentives for POI creation. We work together with Block Cities, which is a cool architecture NFT game, and we've created a bunch of POI architectural collectibles. These collectibles are right now, let's say, hidden. Each day of the coming 2 weeks, starting Monday, we're going to release a riddle where the community has to guess where a POI is that is associated with that riddle, and that POI hasn't been added to the map yet. So we've chosen 10 POIs that haven't been added to the map yet, and what the idea is that the community then starts guessing and starts adding POIs to the map, and if they guess correctly, they will be rewarded in 1 of 10 unique architectural collectibles that are also an architectural drawing or rendering or an illustration of the POI that has been created. Basically, to put it shortly, you solve riddles, add locations, and discover 10 hidden digital collectibles. This is the way, as I said, we're going to start releasing the riddles on Twitter on Monday. We'll also start a treasure hunt mega thread on our discourse, on our community forum. So stay tuned for that. When the riddle come out, people browse the map, try to find it, register the point, and then automatically get the associated NFT to them. We're going to be releasing a blog post and announcement shortly after this call. So I went through this quickly, but all the information is in there. There's also a guide on how to participate, and there will be a mail out to all our newsletter signups about this. It's going to be really interesting to see how the community tries to solve these riddles, hopefully together. It's going to be also really interesting to see how NFTs can work with a token curated registry with incentive model. Yeah, best of luck to all community members, and may the best of you discover the hidden NFTs. So I think that wraps it up. There are also questions from the community that we're going to answer now.
Yeah, thanks, Arthur. I'm really excited to see that campaign get started. Some of you had submitted questions from the previous week as well as this week. So I'm going to run through the ones that were submitted. And then if anyone who's tuning in the YouTube chat, feel free to also post any questions there, and we can get to them after. So there are some just general questions from the community I'll go to first. The first was quite straightforward. How do I get to the map? So our homepage was just recently updated. So there's a map button, multiple map buttons right on the homepage of foam.space, but the dedicated URL for the map is map.foam.space. So you can do that from any browser, and then you need to have a Web3 compatible wallet like MetaMask to then interact with that map. The next question was, is there a concern that publishing and charging for authoritative geolocation constitutes the practice of land surveying, which is legislatively limited to professionals? Well, one, we're not charging anyone to participate. Basically adding a point, you stake tokens, but you still own those tokens. You're kind of putting up a deposit to say that you believe that is truthful. And that said, there are many examples of open source mapping, like most notably OpenStreetMaps. But other kind of crowdsourced projects like Google Guides as well. So that's really about a collaborative open source project. The data that is then added to the foam map is free for anyone to look at and use. It's on the public Ethereum blockchain. So we don't think that this really constitutes a legal land surveying as we see with OpenStreetMaps and Google Guides. It's more of an open source collaborative project where the data ends up being free for anyone to look at the end of the day. The next question is, how do we define success of foam, or how would we describe how foam would be used in 2025? I would definitely hesitate for making concrete predictions, primarily because we're trying to unlock a whole new ecosystem and a whole new economy with this protocol, and that we imagine the most exciting things that will be built on it are ones that we can't imagine today. This is maybe a boring example, but Twitter is most famous for its use of a hashtag, but that's not something the company kind of told people to do. That's something the users kind of came up with themselves. That said, thinking 8 years ahead, defining success for foam is going to be one that dynamic proof of location has already been launched. There's mining, there's coverage across many different regions, and that we actually have Web3 economies happening. So that means there's customers purchasing presence claims, but then more importantly, that the Web3 ecosystem has been built out, that also the Foam static proof of location map is used as an important piece of infrastructure, and that we also see a lot of different economies in games utilizing compostability and interoperability. And we think that as blockchain economies develop, especially into 2025, location is going to be a real key component there. So that's kind of where we'd be looking to how to define the success of the project. The next question is, how will we prevent signals from being the only thing on the map? Well, as we just heard from Ilya's presentation, the way that the signaling registry contract works means that also all different types of NFTs can be added to the map in different layers. And so the first that will probably be added will be these NFTs from the scavenger hunt project that Arthur just presented. But with the new developer portal we'll be launching, that also opens it up to other people being able to have their own projects or their own aspects of things appear on the map as this kind of open source project. So we have points on the map right now in 3 different stages. We have signals. Soon we'll have other kinds of NFTs, and hopefully that'll open the gates for other people to build on top of the map, and we'll have a variety of different things on the map. The follow-up of that question is concerned that if signaling is working too well, people may remove their POIs. That's certainly possible, but as we know, the minimum deposit as well is a parameter that can be changed in the POI, and it's really just meant to be an anti-spam mechanism. So if, for example, people prefer to put most of their tokens in signals, or they find that the value would be much greater there, the minimum deposit could also be lowered on those points. It's really just this anti-spam mechanism as a baseline that you need to deposit tokens into points. Okay, moving on to the next category of questions. There were some questions around proof of use. So the first was, for those that would like to fulfill proof of use, signaling is a no-risk means. So that is correct. However, 10 points need to be added to fulfill proof of use. The minimum deposit is 50 tokens per point, so that's 500 tokens. And there is a chance you could be challenged, but it's quite unlikely, as we've seen from the statistics. Seems to be that a very small percent of points have been challenged to date, and they all have mostly been for legitimate reasons. So you likely will be fine if you add the information correctly. And then for your percentage usage threshold, which is either 25% or 50%, depending on if you're a large or small purchaser, the easiest way to fulfill that is signaling, and signals have no way of being challenged, staked, slashed, or lost. So unless you lose your private key, so as long as you have your private key, signaling is no risk way to fulfill proof of use. So that is correct. And then the answer, the next question was, after staking more than half my tokens, I still couldn't transfer my tokens. Why? So this is an intricate detail about proof of use. It's the way the token controller contract works. And so if you fulfilled proof of use and the modal in the map says proof of use is complete, you have to latch proof of use shut, basically finalize it, by sending 1 transaction of Foam to any wallet address while proof of use has been complete. Then it'll be finalized, latch shut, and that means you could then withdraw tokens from a signal if you wanted to, be below that usage threshold, but you're done with proof of use completely and you can transfer for free. If you have specific issues finalizing proof of use, please reach out to us directly, and worst comes to worst, we can manually help you if you've proof of use but still somehow can't get through. So that will be no problem. Just definitely get in touch with us either by email or on the discourse. The next question was, what does the December 10th deadline mean? So just important to stress, I know this is something people probably get confused about, but there are 2 different aspects of the sale terms. So one is the initial use period. And this is a period where tokens can't be transferred outside the platform no matter what. And it's really the period for token holders, cartographers to test the map, interact with it, use its functionality, become familiar with it. And that's something we've been doing since launching in September. So that period is now ended. It's not a deadline. It just means that for those who have fulfilled proof of use, they now can transfer outside the platform if they wish. If you have not yet completed proof of use, there is no deadline to do so. So you can do that today, you can do it next week, you can do it in 6 months. There is no consequence other than your tokens won't be transferable. That said, proof of use has a sunset baked into it. So 1 year from the platform launch, if you haven't concluded proof of use or fulfilled it, you'll be past it anyway. So if you just waited a year, you'll be past it. But The December 10th was by no means a deadline. It just meant that that initial use period was over. So the next question is more about the Foam Corporation and questions on how we've managed our token sale proceeding to establish runway, and is it affecting operations? So one, we definitely have enough runway through 2019 and more in Ether, so we're kind of fine there, but definitely we've seen we didn't land exactly where we imagined, but neither did the market altogether, and we're definitely coming to terms with the fact this is a new reality, but not only for Foam Corp, but just in general, we're seeing some projects shut down, miners shut down, hedge funds shut down. But we're really focused on building a long-term value of the network. We're really excited about the community we have so far and that we're on the mainnet application. And the next question was updates on development plans. Definitely while we have these campaigns for the map brewing, a new developer portal being launched, our plans really for 2019 will be to go full drive into launching a dynamic proof of location and the hardware. And that's where we see kind of the most value being generated. But happy to answer more questions if they come up. The next question is on the Foam tokens. The question is, are Foam on for sale? So now that we are past the initial use period, initial token holders do have the ability to transfer them, and we have been listed on the exchange Poloniex. I also see that on some decentralized exchanges such as IDEX, people are trading Foam. So if you were not able to participate in the token sale, there are now means to obtain tokens and begin mapping. So yes, they are on sale. The next question was on community specific. Someone was not happy that we didn't keep the Telegram channel open. And I just want to reiterate, our decision for doing that was in no means of a censorship or not wanting to engage in our community. Just keeping a main Telegram channel is an enormous resource drain. Multiple members of our community had been scammed. We have bots and scammers coming in daily. We just didn't really find it a productive way to manage our community. And looking at other colleague projects that we spoke to, such as 0x, Augur, Gnosis, OmiseGo, MakerDAO, which we're all friends with, none of them really use Telegram to manage their community for those reasons. And now that the token is unlocked on the market, the kind of risk for scammers in that kind of environment is really high. That said, we do have a Gitter for real-time chat. I'm there. I know there's not a lot of activity, but we're definitely open to real-time chat systems. We just felt Telegram was really served its purpose during the token sale, but has kind of run its course. We definitely know some of you are frustrated about that, but we encourage you to either continue working in the Foam local Telegram groups, start a different one, or join the discourse or our Gitter, and we're available. And further, someone asked where can they find the community for Los Angeles. There is a Foam California specific Telegram group that I know is quite active. And you can also make a post on our discourse about trying to find other people from California. But the Telegram one for California definitely has people there. And the final question I see is if we would consider creating a forum Discord. We can definitely consider it. I know that our friends at 0x just changed from Rocket Chat to Discord. We can check in with them and see how it's going. But yeah, we're definitely open to it. But right now, we've seen a lot of activity on the discourse, and we're definitely happy with the way the conversations have been developing there.
Okay, I think that's everything for today's community call. Thank you to everyone tuning in. I saw that there was a lot of activity in the chat, and thank you to all the Foam team members for being part of this. And see you in another community call, hopefully then with some signaling analytics in the new year. Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.